What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch here, live for your NFL wild card review. The 2021 NFL playoffs. The first round is over. We had some very good football, triple headers the first time in NFL history, triple headers on Wild Card Weekend, seeing those 2 seeds play the new 7 seeds. Very interesting stuff. I think we learned that on one side in the AFC, that 7 seed was competitive, and we learned in the NFC that maybe they shouldn't have had a 7 seed. We're going to get into every game. I'm going to break down every game, kind of like what I thought, what I saw, how that's going to impact divisional round. Again, guys, this is your weekly review. So this isn't a preview of the divisional round. This is a look back, a review, a recap, and a reaction to what I saw from Wild Card Weekend, and I think what we can take from it, as well as a couple other headlines across the NFL. The Eagles firing Doug Pederson as their head coach, and then all the madness with Deshaun Watson, the quarterback of the Houston Texans. Where is he going to end up? Is he going to get traded? What's going to happen there? Obviously, he's upset. He's posting pictures on a boat in Mexico with his girlfriend. We're going to talk all about that. And the headline, I believe, today, after Wild Card Weekend, is what to make of the Steelers, man. What to make of those Steelers. A team that used to defy or define the NFL in terms of toughness, in terms of what it is to be a football franchise and run your organization. And it just feels like this organization has lacked an identity this year in 2020. And how will they be able to get that back in 2021 and moving forward? They might have to move on from their quarterback. Mike Tomlin, I guess, is on the hot seat a little bit from what's gone down in his locker room. So we're going to talk about that first after the headlines. So yeah, man, a lot to talk about, a lot to discuss as we look forward to the divisional round. I feel truly, before we get started, that we have the 8 best teams in the NFL playing on this upcoming weekend. I predicted out of the 6 games that were played this weekend, I got 5 out of 6 right. The one that I got wrong was the Cleveland Browns defeating the Pittsburgh Steelers. But after watching that game, I don't know if Cleveland is necessarily the better team in the traditional sense, but Cleveland is certainly the more prepared team, certainly has been the more consistent team over this last final stretch. And I think they proved last night that they are, in fact, the better AFC North team. So they'll be moving on. The Rams were able to get revenge on the Seahawks and win that series of games. That was kind of the upset, I think, other than Cleveland in the wild card round, the other underdog. And it's going to be interesting to see if the underdogs this week, who would consist of Tampa Bay, the Rams, the Browns, and the Ravens, how those teams fare in the divisional round. Typically what we see is wild card round. There are maybe a couple upsets in wild card round because the fight between those teams is typically a lot closer. Now, we've never really seen a 2 seed play a 7 seed, so that kind of made the margins a little wider in the wild card round. But usually what we see in the divisional round is not that many upsets. Typically, the best teams show up on the divisional round to advance to the conference championship. But we're going to find out in a year, this year, 2020, 2021, who really are the best teams. Because I think all year I've kind of been saying, the NFL sucks. I don't really see a lot of teams across the league that are dominant or superior. And I think we're going to find out between these 8 teams that we found out are the best, who truly are the best teams, who are the top 4 that will have a chance to get to the Super Bowl. And I'll preview those games tomorrow as well as throughout the week with my best bets and my team and game previews throughout the rest of the week. But today we're going to focus on what we saw from Wild Card. So before I get into all the Wild Card madness, the news, the reaction, and the recap, make sure you do spike that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more NFL reactions and live streams and recaps and reviews just like this. Also, get in that comment section, ask your questions, comment, give me your opinion in the live comments or after the fact. If you're watching this live, then definitely hop in that live comment section. Or if you're watching this later at night on a Monday night, or if you're watching this on a Tuesday morning or throughout the rest of the week, let me know your comments, your reaction, just overall thoughts about Wild Card Weekend and how you think that impacts the divisional round. So let me know in the comment section, guys. All right, so here it is, the reaction to Wild Card Weekend. Let's get to it. But before we do get to the games, I do want to get to the news. And the biggest thing that we saw earlier today was Doug Pederson. Doug Pederson has been fired from the Philadelphia Eagles as their head coach. We heard a little bit earlier this past week that Jim Schwartz actually retired as a defensive coach in the NFL as their defensive coordinator. So now the Philadelphia Eagles will have a lot to do this offseason in terms of their process. Not only will they have to figure out who their head coach is going to be, who that is, what they want to define their team. You know, is that an offensive guy? Is that a guy that knows quarterbacks? Or is that a defensive guy? Maybe it's a special teams guy. I'm not sure. Is it who's going to be the offensive coach? Because obviously Doug Pederson was an offensive coach. He kind of defined the offensive philosophy for the team organizationally from their Super Bowl championship to their last couple of playoff runs. He has defined what their offense has been. You know, a lot of people gave credit to Frank Reich in their postseason runs and that Super Bowl. But question is, you know, Pederson was the guy. He was the guy that was overseeing everything, and now they're going to have to fill that spot. And then you have defensively, Schwartz is gone as well. So you're going to have to find a new defensive coach. And really throughout the last 5-6 years, I've felt that Philadelphia has had one of the best staffs in the NFL. You know, I was a fan of Doug Pederson. I think his success speaks for itself. He had, 2 bad seasons as a coach, the first one and the last one. In between, he reached the playoffs every year. You know, Wentz, he got a lot out of him, nearly making him a MVP. And with Nick Foles, you know, he won the Super Bowl with Nick Foles and went to the playoffs again with Nick Foles. A lot of injuries on this roster. He did have a very talented roster. But I think when you look back at Doug Pederson in Philadelphia, I think a lot of Eagles fans and myself, who's not an Eagles fan, but from the outside perspective, especially as a guy who saw the Eagles beat my team in the Super Bowl, I could say that Doug Pederson was a good coach for Philadelphia, will be a legend in the Eagles organization, and I think has been one of the best coaches in football for a long time. Now, it's also going to be tied to the GM, Howie Roseman, as well as the ownership. So whatever they kind of decide is the best move for this organization is kind of going to be where they're going to go. Is that to keep Carson Wentz? I think the quarterback position has a lot to do with this firing because there was a lot of rumblings. We don't know facts. You know, we don't know the facts. We're not in the organization and we don't know anything. I don't know anything. But just from the reports and from all the kind of news that has circulated out of Philadelphia, is that Doug Pederson and Carson Wentz, that was a damaged relationship. They were done, you know, they had that breakup and it was over, right? They were never going to get back together, okay? So is it Carson Wentz going to be the future of the quarterback position? And personally, from what I've seen, he doesn't deserve to be. I think we've clearly seen who the better quarterback was this year. And that's a guy that I liked a lot coming out of the draft. Right? I like Hurts a lot coming out of the draft, and I felt he could be an NFL starter if you put the right system around him. I think he actually surprised me in terms of, at the NFL level, his ability to throw the football with more arm strength than I kind of thought he had. You know, coming out of the draft, and you guys can go back and watch my scouting report on him, I thought he had excellent mobility, which we've seen at the next level. He has smarts, intelligence. He protects the football. He can create plays and improvise. But I thought he was more of an accuracy guy underneath and kind of like a precision passer than an arm strength kind of guy. But he's actually provided that he can do both. You know, he can pick you apart with his legs, and can hit the big play occasionally over the top. So I think he deserves, at least, at the very least, the opportunity to fight for this job moving forward versus Carson Wentz. If you want to keep Carson Wentz, at least allow the kid who you picked in the second round. It's not like you picked him in the 7th round, 6th round, and then, he had a Tyler Heineke, amazing performance for one game. This guy had like a 3, 4, 5 game stretch where he proved he was the better quarterback than Carson Wentz, and the team played better for him. This is the thing with the Eagles that has always struck me about Carson Wentz as their quarterback, and I've always had questions about this. The team has always played better, right, with another player. Now, that's not to say that the Eagles have not had success with Carson Wentz, but what I'm talking about is the rest of the team. They performed at a higher level, whether that was the offensive line, the defensive line, the linebackers, the corners, the receivers. It just feels like whether it was Nick Foles or now it's after Carson Wentz potentially hurts, they always just fight for that guy more. And I think that speaks to Carson Wentz's leadership. I don't think it had much to do with Doug Pederson. And I think this is actually, in fact, why Carson Wentz kind of lost control. I think there's a part of Carson Wentz mentally that is wrong. I think it's not a lot to do with physical capability with Carson Wentz. I think it has a lot to do with mental capability, whether that is in-game intelligence or just overall mental toughness. With Carson Wentz, it always feels like, and when we've heard, like, a couple seasons ago, we heard, like, Devin McCourty and the McCourtys, Jason McCourty, talk about Nick Foles and kind of praise him in that Super Bowl, and then Chris Long and Michael Bennett, who played with the Eagles, say that Nick Foles was better. And like that, when players say that, even though the statistics would suggest that Carson Wentz was the better player, when players in the locker room or opponents say that about a quarterback, it's very interesting to me. Very interesting to me. And kind of, that was shocking at the time, but now you kind of understand what they were talking about. And when it comes to Doug Pederson, like I think he did the right thing this year. I think, in fact, he held on too long to Carson Wentz. And if that's why he was fired, because he had a vision for the organization moving forward that the ownership and the GM did not agree with, then I think that's the wrong move. And let me tell you, I think Doug Pederson is going to get a job like right away. Like, Doug Pederson is going to be a head coach somewhere else in 2021. It's not a matter of, is he a good coach or a bad coach? He's a good coach. I think it was just a moment in time with the Eagles where that relationship has soured, it's broken, and the locker room, I think, obviously mistrust with the Week 17 management. The organization didn't back him up. The leaders on the team didn't back him up. And I feel like wherever he goes, I think the Jets are probably the leading team in that kind of clubhouse for his services, given the relationship between him and Douglas, the GM in New York. So look out for the Jets there. But I just see it as Doug Pederson is going to get a job. I didn't think he had his best performance this year, his best coaching performance this year, but I definitely think he's going to get a job very quickly. And I think it mostly has to do with what the decision of the organization was for the future of the quarterback position and where they want to go with that. So I honestly think this means that Carson Wentz may not get traded this offseason. I think if Doug Pederson were to remain the coach, it's Pederson or Wentz, and obviously they would have chosen Pederson in that equation. But the fact that Pederson has been fired kind of means to me, reading the tea leaves here, that Carson Wentz is going to remain on the team and at least fight for his job throughout the training camp, and they are going to move on to a new coach who can get the best out of Carson Wentz because they still believe in him as an organization. So very interesting from that standpoint. But overall, again, guys, I think when looking back at Doug Pederson's time as the Eagles head coach, you have to say it was successful. And I'm sure Eagles fans would agree with me, winning that Super Bowl and getting to multiple playoffs. So we'll see where he goes from here. I never like to see a guy lose his job, but maybe a fresh start for him is what's best, and maybe a fresh start for the Eagles is what's best as well. Now, in terms of the coaches who could replace him in Philadelphia? That's an interesting question that kind of has to be answered. I know that a lot of Eagles fans kind of want that to be. They kind of want that to be like I asked AC. I'm going to come out and say it. I asked AC. I texted him. I'm like, AC, you're an Eagles fan. Like, who do you want as the coach? And he kind of wants to stay within that Andy Reid tree. He kind of wants to get like an Eric Bieniemy type. So we'll see if that's kind of where they go for the Eagles. But I said it when he was fired. I believe that immediately they are going to try to find a new offensive guy, because I think that's kind of where the organization has always been at. Whether it was Andy Reid, to Chip Kelly, to Doug Pederson, they have always wanted the offensive mind at the head coaching spot. So I think that will remain, and I think they will try to go along the same lines of a Doug Pederson, just with a different voice. So that's my thoughts on that whole organization. Right now, the Eagles are in a really interesting offseason. They have to be one of the most interesting teams heading into the next season, and definitely heading into this offseason with where they can go with their organization. So, next, we have Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson has had a very interesting start to his offseason. Obviously, a very disappointing regular season. Some people thought that the Texans would again be back in the playoffs, or at least in the hunt for the playoffs. And that was not the case, obviously, right? The Texans were an absolute disaster. They traded DeAndre Hopkins in the offseason. They traded for Laramie Tunzel, and they've kind of been in a spot where they were kind of going all in, and yet it was a disaster. I mean, they did not put a team. Nobody ever thought the Texans were in a position to win the Super Bowl, despite all of their moves from Bill O'Brien and from the front office over the past 3 to 4 seasons, suggesting that they were in a position to win a Super Bowl. And it's completely backfired. And when that happens, you are absolutely in a terrible position. Because, yes, you have this all-star quarterback, but you do not have basically a team around him, and you don't have a lot of cap space. You're paying so much to this guy, and now you have to find a way to put a team around this guy. So you've made all these moves. You don't have draft picks. You don't have. You've traded them away, and your draft pick was just like top 5 this year, and that was a complete disaster. So Deshaun Watson seems unhappy, and I don't know Deshaun Watson personally, and I don't know, anyone in the Texans organization. But from what it seems, it feels like Deshaun Watson, and I've said this before, I'll say it again. Deshaun Watson is not mad at Nick Caserio or the hiring of Nick Caserio. I think what Deshaun Watson is mad at is the ownership and their decision-making on making these choices for GM and head coach, right? Deshaun Watson wanted more say in the matter for the GM and the head coach. Deshaun Watson, I feel he's more mature than to suggest that he's just strictly mad at the decision to get another Patriot voice in there like Bill O'Brien, because he doesn't even know Nick Caserio at all. So that would just feel very immature from that front. So for me, it has to do with McNair, the owner, and kind of, let's be honest, the history between him and African Americans. Let's just be honest, okay? So there's been a little bit of history there to suggest that there could be some friction on that front from previous things that McNair has done or said. And I feel like the absolute outright refusal to bring in Eric Bieniemy as a interview possibility definitely struck a chord with Deshaun Watson, because that's the guy I think he wanted and he wasn't able to get. Now, am I saying that would have been the best hire for the Texans? I don't even think so. Honestly, I don't even think so. I don't even know. I think there's other possibilities that could be just as good as Bieniemy, but just the fact that they didn't give the possibility to be open to Deshaun Watson's suggestions for GM and coaching, I think has kind of made him mad, because he realizes, all these things are adding up over time. It's not just one thing. It's everything adding up. It's, okay, you traded my favorite player on the team. You traded my favorite receiver, a top 5 receiver, top 7 receiver in the league at the time, right? So that hurts. We might not sign Will Fuller, who's, if it's not Hopkins, that's my favorite guy. Our organization has made bad moves. Bill O'Brien just kind of, and I think a lot of this has to do, in my opinion, with the way that the organization has been kind of put in the perspective of the media. I think the media has driven a narrative about the Texans front office that Deshaun Watson has started to believe, and I think that's part of the problem here and a big part of the friction. So the question is Deshaun Watson going to be traded? If I had to guess, I would say no. I don't think Nick Caserio is going to take the Texans' job and then trade his most valuable asset. Even if you get 3 first-round picks and a quarterback in this deal, you are still gambling that you may never find a franchise quarterback over your tenure as a GM. And trust me, this is the number one reason he took this job, is because he knew he had responsibility and he knew he had at least a quarterback who would be there for the next 10 years. And a guy that he knew he didn't have to find that position. He could just build a team around this guy, this special talent at the most important position. So for me, if I had to guess, no, Deshaun Watson will not be traded. But there's going to have to be some serious work to be done with that relationship to repair the relationship. And the best way to do that is by making moves that may kind of, help soften the blow for Deshaun Watson. So maybe that might be bad for the Texans. Maybe Deshaun Watson suggests a player here or a player there to sign that, okay, maybe it'll make Watson happy, and because of that, they're going to make the move when maybe it doesn't actually make the Texans a better team. Like, you got to think about that. Maybe the Texans go out and sign a receiver that Watson likes, even though the team, it might not actually make them better because they could better utilize that money on a corner. You know what I mean? So it's going to be interesting to see how they repair that relationship, but I do feel like that relationship will remain, at least for this season, and we'll see how it goes with Caserio and Watson. But if he were to be traded, let's open up the possibility for if he were to be traded. Where are the possibilities, like what lies open as a possibility? So I think there are 3 teams as outright favorites that could trade for Deshaun Watson. So the number one team, in my opinion, is the Miami Dolphins. And it's not because I think it would be the best landing spot for Deshaun Watson, but I feel like it's the most realistic because I think Miami has a combination of a coach that is very widely respected across the NFL, who's young, who's understanding of players, and who players kind of love right now. And he's got a very good reputation. So that's one. Number 2, they have a lot of draft picks, specifically this year. So there's ammunition for Miami to be able to make a move right now. It's not like Caserio would be getting picks next year or 3 years down the line. It's this year that he'd be getting at least 2 first-round picks. There's also the possibility of trading Tua in this equation, who is just a top 5 pick last year. So that ammunition that Miami has definitely makes them an intriguing spot, as well as still having enough cap space to make the move. Then you also add in the fact that, okay, Flores, Caserio, obviously Patriot ties there. There could be a trade negotiation that could go down between the 2 teams. Secondly, I think the second team on the list would be the San Francisco 49ers. This would be, to me, the ideal spot from a football perspective for Deshaun Watson. Kyle Shanahan and Deshaun Watson, in my opinion, if paired up, I don't care about the rest of the roster, would win at least 2 Super Bowls throughout their tenure, however long that is. Let's say it's 10 years. I'm going to give Shanahan and Watson 2 Super Bowls. I don't care about the rest of the team, and I honestly think that this would make the 49ers the best team in football in 2021 if the 49ers traded for Deshaun Watson because of the team that they already have. They also have enough draft picks. They have a lot of young, good players, and they have a quarterback need, as well as the fact that they could easily move on from the quarterback they have right now, Jimmy Garoppolo, who is a free agent. So they have that open cap space that they could utilize in this move. We've also seen that Shanahan and Lynch have been aggressive in trading for quarterbacks, Jimmy Garoppolo, as well as asking for Tom Brady, and been open to that kind of approach to things. And they've I think the 49ers have also missed I think they're at the point in their organization where they're like, we've had all these quarterbacks that are kind of average. Like, let's just do it. Like, let's just swing for the fences. Let's just get the guy. Like, we're done. Like, let's get the guy. Let's get the franchise guy. I think at this point, like, Kyle Shanahan has never had that guy in his career as an OC or as a head coach. Matt Ryan was the closest to it, but I don't think Matt Ryan was ever considered an elite quarterback. So if they were to get Watson, it would be really, really, really interesting for their organization for the long haul, and it wouldn't, it would allow them more margin for error for the rest of their roster, for sure, because when you have a guy like that, you don't need to worry about the rest of your team being so spectacular. And then the final team I would add to this list would actually be the Patriots. The reason I say the Patriots is obviously, first and foremost, the ties between GM and GM and organization. Caserio is a Patriot guy. I think he'd be open to the trade. Patriots have top 3 cap space for the next 2 years. So they have a lot of cap space. They have picks that could be high in the draft. This year it's kind of average, but they have plenty of draft picks, as they always do. And I just think they're obviously in search for the next Tom Brady. They're obviously in search for the next franchise quarterback. They are not tied to a quarterback right now. They have that roster spot as open as any team in the NFL, probably more so, because they are not tied to Cam. They're not tied to any other quarterback. So the third team would be the Patriots on that list. I think it's probably the least likely out of those 3, but it still makes sense given all the cap they have and that their biggest position of need is the quarterback position. So those would be the top 3 landing spots in my opinion. Number 1, Miami. Number 2, San Francisco. Number 3, New England. There could be other teams in that mix, but you would have to kind of go through the cap situation and the quarterback need and the franchise. So we'll see how it works out. I personally would like to see him be traded because I think there are a number of teams that, just not having Deshaun Watson in the playoffs this year is disappointing because he's a top 4, top 3 quarterback in the NFL. So not having him in the playoffs is just bad for football. So I just like to see him on a better team. That's just me. Sorry, Texans fans. That's just me. I want the best quarterbacks on good teams. And that's just not the case right now for Deshaun Watson. So hopefully he gets traded, but I just don't see it happening right now. All right. Now, let's move on to the wild card round and my thoughts on each and every game from this weekend. So let's go. All right. Let's start off with the Browns and the Steelers, which was probably the headline of wild card weekend, in my opinion. This game was absolute madness. I honestly could not believe my eyes. And before I get into this game and every game for Wild Card Weekend, make sure you guys do Gronk spike that like button if you haven't already. That's funny. Just as I say that, we get 69 viewers. And subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. All right. So let's talk about this game. Oh my goodness. What was this? I don't even know what this was. So the Browns up 28-0. 28-0 on the Pittsburgh. Who would have seen that coming, man? 28-0? Bro. I have a lot to say. The Pittsburgh Steelers are the most unlikable team in the NFL right now. They are absolutely, positively my least favorite team in the NFL, guys. I don't like to hate on teams. I like to love teams. I like to love players. I love to love the football. All right? But the Pittsburgh Steelers, I don't even know what they are because this team to me is not the Pittsburgh Steelers. They just simply are not the Pittsburgh Steelers, bro. I can't tell you what this team is. Just like the Washington football team, they should be renounced from their name. Because this, to me, is not the Pittsburgh Steelers. I've had this rant before. I've seen the Pittsburgh Steelers. I've known the Steelers as smack them in the mouth, the toughest team in the league. We are going to run you over. We are going to, just when it's in January, you always expect that black and blue Pittsburgh grit and toughness. And the Pittsburgh Steelers are the exact opposite. The Pittsburgh Steelers are style over substance. The Pittsburgh Steelers, in fact, all the people saying that they were 11-0, best team in football. Bro, they are the worst 11-0 team in NFL freaking history, bro. 11-0. They stink. The Pittsburgh Steelers, the last part of the season, from that 11-0 on, had the same amount of victories as the New York fucking Jets. Think about that for a second. Think about it. The Pittsburgh Steelers had the same amount of wins after 11-0 as the Jets. Are you kidding me, Mike Tomlin? Are you kidding me? And I have a lot to say about this game. Let me tell you, because this game, we could talk about the Corvettes, and we could talk about the TikToks, and we could talk about the dancing, and we could talk about the identity, which I think is at the basis of everything. But this game in itself was a disaster. I mean, I'm talking about a disaster from a strategical standpoint. I mean, brutal, horrible. So they come into the game offensively. They start this game. The Pittsburgh Steelers are playing a team without a coaching staff. They are literally missing 4 coaches, including the coach of the year, Kevin Stefanski, who is in his basement. The Browns are missing a Pro Bowl guard in Joel Bitonio. They are missing Denzel Ward, a top 5 to 7 corner in the NFL. They are missing Olivier Vernon. They are missing Odell Beckham. They are missing good fucking players. And the Pittsburgh Steelers, what do? Their game plan in this game from an offensive standpoint is to run the ball at the Browns. Think about this. The Cleveland Browns did not have any corners. I'm talking they didn't have their best corner, and they seriously were trying to find guys off the street to play on the field in this game. The Steelers offensively come out and try to run fullback dive. I have never been as dumbfounded from an offensive standpoint in the playoffs in my damn life. What are you doing? What are you doing? The Pittsburgh Steelers decide in the first quarter that we are going to go against everything we've been all year. What they have been has been at their best a passing attack. Put the ball in the hands of Ben Roethlisberger. Use your 3 to 4 dynamic targets with 3 receivers and 1 tight end in Eric Ebron, Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, and Juju Smith-Schuster. Instead, what they do is they run the ball at a team with no cornerbacks. Guys, this is simple mathematics here. This equation does not add up. So the Steelers all year know they can't run the ball. They can't. We know this. I mean, how many times have we seen the Steelers get stopped on 3rd and 1? How many? How many? And they come out and their strategy is to condense the field and run the ball. Bro, are you kidding me? Like that's shit coaching. I mean, it's terrible. And then on defense, okay, I gotta say something. This is why I've never been a Mike Tomlin guy. I respect Mike Tomlin, okay? I think the guy, he has Obama-like, in person, just speeches. The guy feels like a coach. He feels like a leader of men, man. The guy is excellent in press conferences, okay? For all I know, he's probably the president, okay? But every playoffs, every time, the guy gets outcoached. Every time. Not once, not twice, not 3 times, every time. Every time. Mike Tomlin gets outcoached. From a schematical perspective, Mike Tomlin has lost in every playoffs since 2008. Every time. I have never seen Mike Tomlin win a coaching matchup in the playoffs. Never. Somebody bring it up. Every time the Steelers have won a playoff game, it's because their team was just way better than the other team. Every time. I mean, this year, the guy gets absolutely lapped on both sides of the field by a coach who's in his basement. He's not even on the field. He's in his basement. And he got lapped. God, that's a joke. In my opinion, Mike Tomlin should be fired. I'm serious. I get it. Mike Tomlin he has an amazing record, okay? At a certain point, you've had one of the best rosters in the NFL since you've been there. It started that you had Bill Cowher's roster, which you won a Super Bowl with. Yippee-ki-yay. Oh, good job, buddy. You won a Super Bowl with another man's roster. Okay, and then the rest, you have Antonio Brown, who's like one of the 3 best receivers I've ever seen in my life. You have a Hall of Fame quarterback in Ben Roethlisberger. You have the best offensive line in the league. You have the best running back at the time, Le'Veon Bell. You have studs on defense. And that's your side of the ball. And you still suck from 2010, 2012 to like 2016. The Steelers did not have a defense. Like just recently they had a defense. Like they just got a defense like last year. You had Antonio Brown, Ben Roethlisberger, and Le'Veon Bell on the same offense. And you didn't win a Super Bowl. Because you got outcoached every time. Think about this. You got outcoached by Doug fucking Marrone, bro. In 2017, you got outcoached by a guy that just got fired. And then this year, you get outcoached by a guy who just was coaching from his basement. And then, what do you do in the game? It's not even the prep. So, okay, you have bad schematics leading into the game. And then, when you get to the game, you don't go for it on 4th and 1? Bro, you're down 14. This was the worst decision I've ever seen in my life. They're down what was it, 14? I don't know, 2 scores, okay? It was 2 scores. I don't know if exactly 14. It's 4th and 1 at your 46 in the 4th quarter. And you punt. If I was the Steelers player, I would have just walked off the field into the locker room. Are you kidding me? What does that say to your team? You basically conceded game. You went to the menu, you went down to quit, and then you press concede game. Are you kidding? So you motivate the team to come back, and then you punt the ball from your 46-yard line, and your punter isn't even good, okay? So your punter punts it for a touchback. And people want to get on these analytical folk. That is the worst decision I have seen from a coach in a pro football playoff game, probably ever. Okay? How do you not? There's 10 minutes left in the game. You need 2 touchdowns. Your defense has already allowed 30 points, and you want to put them back on the field. Not only do you want to put them back on the field, you want to put Cassius Marsh on the field to defend Nick Chubb. Good fucking luck with that. If anyone's seen Cassius Marsh play, they know the guy is the worst edge setter in the history of football. The guy, I think Durkant could block the guy on the edge. I'm not even lying. I seen this guy get run over. I mean, they just ran at this dude every play. Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt. I mean, oh my, the outside zone was just open. So this historic offense, or historic defense of the Pittsburgh Steelers, absolute shits the bed. They play like trash. They were terrible. And then on short inches, the Steelers don't even know what a quarterback sneak is. Guys, have you ever seen a team that has refused to actually do a quarterback sneak? Like, this team doesn't quarterback sneak. It's the most efficient play in the NFL, and they don't do it. Like, you gotta, like, I don't care if it's Ben. You sat Josh Dobbs. You made him inactive, so you couldn't even bring him into the game to run it on 4th and 1. Like, how many stupid things do you need to do to get fired? So, you have a terrible game plan. You don't quarterback sneak ever. And I understand this is to do with your offensive coordinator, Randy Fichtner, who sucks. But, and then you're down by what? How many points were they down? They're down 12, I think. 12 or 13. And you go for 2. Like any idiot knows you go for 2. And this guy kicks the extra point. Bro, what's the difference between kicking the... I'm not even good at math, and I know that 12 and 13 in football makes no difference. If you don't get the 2, it doesn't matter. Because 13 and 12 is the same number in football. It doesn't matter. Just go for 2. If you get it, you make it a 2-score game. It's easy. Dude, like, serious. Like, what? Does Mike Tomlin need like a mathematician on the sidelines to tell him when common sense would suggest, when any Madden player, like I guarantee you, a 12-year-old Madden player could probably tell Mike Tomlin when to go for 2 when down by that score. I mean, like, how many stupid... And then you got Juju doing a damn dance before a play. You got this clown. I mean, this guy is an absolute clown. He's dancing on logos. He thinks he's T.O. The guy isn't even, I don't know. He's doing TikTok this, TikTok that. It's just one big distraction. Why? During the week, okay, I blame Mike Tomlin. You let Antonio Brown be an absolute goofball clown head, and then you sit here and you just watch Juju be the same thing. The guy literally says it's the same old Browns. They suck. They have no good players. What did he say? I don't even know. I don't care. He basically said, the Browns are ass. We will win. And that is that. That's basically what he was saying. Okay? Juju, during the week, gave the Browns bulletin board material. Clown. And then he doesn't back it up until the third quarter. And then we got Chase Claypool. Oh, boy. I want to like Chase Claypool because he's Canadian. He's from like 40, 30 minutes away from me. And that's cool and all. But clown! He's TikToking and then he's on Instagram Live. And he's saying the Browns are going to get, what did he say? Slapped? What did he say? What did he say again? Clapped? Clapped. I think he said clapped. So he said, after they lost, don't worry, it was a bad loss, but the Browns are going to get clapped next week. Clown! I hate this team. They suck, man. I can't. I want to like this team. I can't. Like, what? And this sucks, because I want to talk about the Browns. Because the Browns won the game. Baker Mayfield proved me wrong. He played great. Jarvis Landry finally gets a playoff win. Played awesome. Nick Chubb's a animal. Kareem Hunt, right? Awesome game. Offensive line road graded these clowns. Threw Cassius Marsh out the club. Defensively, turnovers here. I love the game plan. I mean, the clowns they played. Bro, the Browns didn't have 4 coaches, and they looked so much more organized. They look like the Steelers. The Browns are the new Steelers. The Steelers are the new Browns. That's what this said to me. The Browns, from top to bottom, have organization, have purpose, have identity. The Steelers are a bunch of clowns. The Browns ran that football well. Nobody thought they really would. They spread the ball. Oh, man. I love this game plan, bro. I don't know if it was Stefanski, Van Pelt, who it was, but they implemented some, I mean, Mitch brings up the Patriots again. They implemented some Patriots, spread the Steelers out 5 wide. Yeah, they're going to blitz, but we're going to get it out before you can get to the quarterback. And then, bro, the year is 2020. The year is 2020, and the Pittsburgh Steelers are playing defense like it's 2007. I mean, teams had problems with Wes Welker because they put linebackers on him. And now the Steelers in 2020 are still putting their linebackers when they have 4 corners on the field on Jarvis Landry. You deserve to lose, Mike Tomlin. How many times do you need to play the same offense to actually understand that you need to cover receivers, especially the best one on the other team, with a cornerback? I don't care if you're playing man zone, whatever you're playing, you need to put corners on receivers. Can we stop playing 2007 football? It's 13 years later. Like, how is this defense even good in the first place? I don't understand. I wouldn't count out the Browns next week. I think the Browns have proven to us, I said it before, but again, I didn't pick them. I'm a clown. I should have picked the Browns. I don't know why I trusted the Steelers, because they're brutal. Like, I'm never picking the Steelers again. I wouldn't count out the Browns next week. As long as they're healthy on the offensive line, if they get Denzel Ward back, the 10-point spread is disrespectful. Honestly, I don't think the Browns are 10 points worse than the Chiefs. The Chiefs have failed to cover week after week after week. I understand, a lot of people are going to bring up, emotion, like the highs and the lows, and the Browns being maybe potentially too high on themselves after this victory. But it's the playoffs. You get up to play teams. The Browns are going to come out. They're going to be feeling loose. And here's the thing with the Browns. Just like the Bills, I trust the Browns to make good decisions. This is why I like the Browns. I like the Browns because they actually, when I watch them, I never argue that they are making a good decision for their team. And that is good coaching. Whenever the Browns go for it, punt, they run the ball, they pass the ball, it's always positive. It always makes sense. With some of these other teams, I just don't understand. So, the Chiefs aren't going to beat the Browns because the Chiefs are smarter organizationally than the Browns. That won't be the case. The Browns they'll make the right decisions for what they think will give them a chance to win. And just with that alone, the Browns will be competitive. I think they can run the ball well on the Chiefs. If they can do that, I think they can keep Mahomes on the sidelines. And as long as they get a couple corners or safeties back, their secondary back, I think they can, I don't think they'll stop Mahomes a lot, but at least they'll have a chance. I think 10 points is kind of disrespectful, honestly. And this Browns offense is playing really well, passing the ball, running the ball. They can score points. So, I'm proud of the Browns, man, and I am absolutely, utterly disgusted with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I am done with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I am officially a Browns fan. Great game, Cleveland. Good win. I'm so happy that this team won. If I had to watch the Pittsburgh Steelers for one more week, I don't know what I would do. I don't think I'd watch the game. If I had to watch the Steelers one more week, if they would have came back in that game, I don't think I would have watched them play the Bills. I don't think I would have tuned in. I'm being honest. I mean, I'm done. I hate that team. I'm done with them. Next game. The Bills beat the Colts. Barely. We learned some things in this game. Now, just like the Browns, I think the Colts are an extremely smart football team. I think they play sound. They know who they are. They know what their identity is. They play to their strengths. And they also make good decisions. Now, what we saw on Twitter was a lot of people arguing, this decision or that decision for Frank Reich. I thought every decision that he made was the correct one. Did I misspell barely? Maybe I'll have to take that off. There you go. So I felt like Buffalo, just overall, we saw some flaws in them because I thought Indianapolis approached the game with sound logic. Like, they went for it when it made sense. They ran the ball versus a bad run defense. They defensively, I thought, did a good job, especially early, of confusing Allen enough to make him hold the ball, kind of, run around to make a play. And really the reason the Colts lost is because of Josh Allen. Really the reason the Colts lost. The Colts lost was not because they got outcoached. They actually outcoached the Bills, which is something that not a lot of teams have done all year long. Colts are one of the few teams that have outcoached the Bills this year. One of maybe the only team. Super chat from District 13 says, sharing the wealth on my 50-1 shot, Browns for $5. Is that to win the Super Bowl? Good luck with that. I appreciate the donation. Yeah, I just overall, I like how the Colts played. Honestly, the Colts would have beat a lot of other teams this week. The Colts were the better team on the field for 60 minutes. I thought they dominated both lines of scrimmage. They gave Phillip Rivers a lot of time to throw. Phillip Rivers played really well, about as well as he can at this point in his career. He was accurate. He made a lot of big-time throws down the field. He didn't make any big mistakes. The offensive line was awesome. The defensive line was awesome. They sacked Allen a couple times. They forced pressure on Allen. They forced him to hold the ball and make a spectacular play, and that's all you can really do, right? From a coaching perspective, the Colts were awesome. They earned my respect. Frank Reich, I've always liked Frank Reich, but this was one of his best performances as a coach. Honestly. They deserve to be moved. They deserve to be in the divisional round, even though they lost. Because, again, I picked Buffalo to go to the Super Bowl. I felt they were the best team in the AFC. And the Colts gave them everything they could handle on both sides of the football. And if it were not for Josh Allen making amazing play after amazing play and Stephon Diggs being a baller, I think the Colts win versus most teams. The difference was the margin for error that the Bills have. And just throughout the game, I was just repeatedly saying, the Bills are the Chiefs. The Bills are the Chiefs. Consistently, I was just yeah, the Bills are getting outplayed here. Their offensive line's getting outplayed. Their defensive line's getting outplayed. They can't run the ball. Their defense isn't playing particularly well. They're not tackling particularly well. But they have a stud quarterback. They have some stud weapons. They can make big plays. And that margin for error is far greater than Indianapolis. Indianapolis is an example of a team being really good in most places on a roster, but not having the playmakers or the quarterback to be able to just overcome things when schematically it doesn't go right? Indianapolis schematically was better. They were physically better, but the Bills were better in one area, and that's why they won. They were better playmaking at quarterback and at wide receiver. That was it. That was it. And Bills fans, be honest. That was not your best performance. If a couple things go this way or that way, if they get that fourth down, which was a clutch stop, I'll give you credit. But, you could have easily lost that game and your run would have been over before it started. I just really want to give credit where credit is due to the Colts. Because they came in as a touchdown underdog and they outperformed the team that won the game. And again, not every team that wins the game is the best team on the field that day. And that's why, when looking at NFL success to winning the Super Bowl, the biggest things you need is the positions that allow you the margin for error, for the ability to overcome things when everything is going wrong. And that's the example here with Buffalo. And I think when you flip that on its head, when you look at Buffalo, the Bills, they learned what it's like to play in a playoff game, I think. They played in it last year, but they learned what it was like to win, right? They lost last year in kind of heartbreaking fashion. They got that first one under their belt. So I'm very intrigued to see how that impacts them moving forward. Do they gain confidence? Are they a little less tense in these situations? Does this help them moving forward? Because I think, honestly, we saw a little bit of, they're a little tense, Buffalo, in that game versus Indianapolis. And Indianapolis kind of appeared as the team that we've been here, we've done that. We have many players that have been in these situations. We have a coach who's been here. We've had a quarterback who's been here many times. And we are going to execute. And they were out executing Buffalo. But the impressive part was Josh Allen being the difference. Josh Allen being calm. Josh Allen, in every moment where he needed to be great, he was great. He was the difference. He made a couple spectacular throws down the field, escaping pressure. He was the leading passer, the leading rusher, and the leader, period. Stephon Diggs, 6 catches, 128 yards, and a touchdown. Dominated. Gabriel Davis, a rookie, came through clutch, had a couple big plays in the game. I thought he's legitimately good. But we saw Indianapolis had a game plan to beat Buffalo. You got to win the line of scrimmage. And I don't think Indianapolis did a very good job running the ball, but they stuck to it. They made the game so that they had a lot of the time of the possession. And if they just execute on fourth down and won a couple times or in those red zone situations, they would have won the game. So they kind of had the game plan to beat Buffalo, but they just fully weren't able to overcome the greatness of what Josh Allen was able to do out there with his escapability, his improvisation, his arm, his talent. What else was there? Both Colt running backs went for over 70 yards rushing in the game, even though, Taylor wasn't very efficient. He ran for under 4 yards per carry, but still gave them a chance. I thought Rivers played very efficiently. He looked way better than Ben Roethlisberger this week. There was a lot of, I saw a lot of in-breaking routes for Indianapolis. They used their tight ends very well, their receivers very well. T.Y. Hilton, Jack Doyle had a good game. Michael Pittman had a good game. Everything was kind of over the middle of the field to those guys. Short yardage and red zone. This was the final thing we kind of learned from short yardage and red zone for this game. The difference in the playoffs, and I said this on the preview, the difference in the playoffs a lot of times is short yardage and red zone. And that was one of the other areas where the Bills were able to win, just barely. Their defense was able to play well in the red zone, and their offense executed in the red zone, while the Colts didn't always do that. They didn't always execute on 4th and 1. They didn't always execute in the red zone. Their defense didn't always stop the Bills in the red zone. The Bills are excellent red zone offense. The difference between touchdowns and field goals or turnover on downs in a game like this between two opponents is absolutely massive. So that's something that we will learn moving forward. Check out early in the game who's winning the line of scrimmage and who's winning the short yardage situations. And that will often determine who will win a playoff game. So check out that as we move forward in the playoffs. And then the final thing is like, what's the future for Indianapolis? Is Phillip Rivers coming back? Who's the quarterback going to be? Are they going to make a trade for Carson Wentz? Are they going to make a trade for Matthew Stafford, Matt Ryan? What are they going to do at the quarterback position? And then what are they going to do to add to this team that I feel next year will be in the running again, as long as they get a quarterback to be a Super Bowl team? If they can add another receiver and they can add another corner, I think this team is in really good shape. So I really like what I saw from Indianapolis this weekend. I thought they played a heck of a game. I think they just lost to a special player in Josh Allen and a team that had some things go their way. So Buffalo kind of lowered on my spectrum of expectations now. I had them going to the Super Bowl. I think this is good news for, Chiefs fans, Ravens fans this week who think, we might have to play Buffalo or we will play Buffalo this week. I think if Baltimore does some things a certain way, I think they got a good chance of possibly upsetting the Bills. Not saying it will happen, but just saying we saw it. We saw it. It could be done. So that was a really interesting game. I thought that was the best game of the week. District 13 with another $5. Thank you, man. Says sharing the wealth on the Bills at 20-1 in the futures and doubled down last month at 16-1 for $10 each. Let's go, Allen. Yes, I agree. I also bet on the future for the Bills, so good. All right, next game. Did I spell debilitate correctly? Because I might have to take this one down too. Let's check the Google if I spelled debilitate right. It looks like it. You guys let me know. I think so. Brian says, I know they lost Mitch, but what did I say? The Colts are vastly underrated. Yeah, I think that was kind of the story of their season on Saturday. We saw a team that was good, solid all around. They just didn't have those playmakers to take them over the top. I think that's kind of what we saw. All right. The Rams and the Seahawks. So I predicted the Rams to win, although I wasn't extremely confident in it. Kind of everything that I saw take place in this game was the reason why I picked them to win the game, honestly. The Rams defense dominated. I'm talking, they were incredible. They dominated this game. The Rams, if you didn't know it already, their defense is by far the best defense in football, and they are uniquely matched up to beat Seattle. Uniquely matched up to beat Seattle. And that kind of showed on Saturday. We did this as a live stream, and it was interesting to watch the game unfold because early in the game you thought, okay, interesting, Seattle's defense is playing pretty well. The Rams' defense is playing pretty well. They're both playing well on defense. Which offense can make more plays? And ultimately, if you thought, it was going to stay about the same score, you would think eventually Russell Wilson would break through and win the game. But when watching it, it was like at a certain point in the second half, I was just like, I don't know if the Seahawks are going to score. And then eventually, the Seahawks defense they broke down and the Rams were able to make a couple big plays. Jared Goff made a couple throws, and they ran the ball with Akers quite well, and they won easily. They ran away with the game, and it was kind of a disaster for Seattle, especially on offense. And I know that a lot of Seahawks fans are freaking out. What should we do with Pete Carroll? Like, what should we do with Schottenheimer? What should we do with the team? Like, where are we at? Where are we going forward? And yeah, I think all of those questions are fair, and I want to talk about them a little bit. But for the Rams, I think we kind of just saw what we thought we would see. Sean McVay adjusted. A reason I picked the Rams is because I felt like their coaching staff, their ability to adjust to a third matchup, that would be a massive advantage that they would hold over Seattle. Just like Mike Tomlin, Pete Carroll is not an adjusting coach. He's not a schematic coach. This is my problem with Pete Carroll. And I don't want to get too far into this because I'm trying to give praise to McVay and his staff. But my problem with Pete Carroll has always been the same problem as Mike Tomlin. He schematically does not hold any edges over any good coaches in the league. He is a great leader, and he is a, just overall, he can build a foundation of an organization, but he is not a guy that going into a playoff game you would want to game plan, offense or defense. You would not pick Pete Carroll in the first 10 to 15 coaches to draw up your offense or your defense for a playoff game. Now, would you want Pete Carroll to be the spokesman in your locker room? Yes. But the problem here is when we get to a situation like Rams-Seahawks. The Rams had the advantage in coaching on both sides of the football. And even though Seattle's defense played well, the Rams' defense was just so much better coached that that pick six was an example of how much better the coaching was in this game. That interception was one of the best interceptions I've ever seen. And that was the best defensive back play I've seen all year. Now, Monty's got a super chat. $5. The Browns are the Browns. Bye-bye, Corvette. Bye-bye, Corvette boy, and bye-bye, clown pool. Biggest clowns of all time. Also, you missed my other donations. Thank you, Monty. I appreciate it. I didn't see it, but thank you. All right. I just think the biggest storyline was Seattle, and the same thing as Pittsburgh. They didn't put their team in an ideal position to win this game from a coaching perspective. And the biggest thing that tells me that they didn't is because after the game, Pete Carroll comes out and says, we're going to run the ball more next year. And that's not what I want to hear. Okay? Your offense was a certain thing. It was pretty awesome early in the year when you were letting Russ cook. And then lately, you have reverted into your old ways. You have reverted into a run first on first down offense. You have run into we don't have a short passing game. We don't have an intermediate passing game. We don't adjust to what you do on defense. We are just going to play our offense. It's incredible, the difference. I've never seen a difference like I've seen with Seattle's offense from one half of the season to the next half. I've never seen it before. It is absolutely insane. In a quarterback as well, right? Russell Wilson, according to PFF, was their 14th graded passer since week 10. So he was an MVP early in the year and went from that to being an average quarterback thanks to their play calling decisions. And a big reason for that was constantly putting Seattle in bad third down situations. Because they had bad play calling on early downs, they constantly ended up in third and long situations where your bad offensive line is going to show up and you are going to get sacked and you are going to get pressure and you're not always going to be able to make a miraculous play. Your quarterback can't always bail you out. Every play that they passed the ball in this game, it felt like Seattle. It was just like, Russ, you got to run around and you got to make something happen. That was the play call. Russell Wilson runs around with his head cut off and throws the ball. There's no snap, throw. There's no easy first read completions. Everything is Russell Wilson scrambling around to make something happen. And that is what the Seahawks have been for the last couple of years. And that's why the Seahawks have been kind of restricted. So, honestly, I feel it is time for Seattle to move on from this coaching staff. I think they need to go in a new direction. It was great. I'm not saying Pete Carroll is a bad coach. I'm just saying this team needs to move in a different direction. Because obviously whatever they're doing, it's not working when you get to the playoffs. Russell Wilson is good enough to get you to the playoffs, but it just looks like to me every year now that Russell Wilson is carrying Pete Carroll. It's not an equal relationship anymore. It's a one-sided relationship to me. As far as the Rams are concerned, we'll talk a little bit more about the Seahawks, but the Rams, as far as they're concerned, they move on. They are the 6th seed. They take on Green Bay. That's going to be a fascinating matchup. Hopefully they're healthy. Cooper Kupp left the game. Aaron Donald left the game. I hope they're fully healthy going into this game because I think their defense gives them a chance to make things interesting. They have kind of proven that they can be good with good coaching and a good defense. They can be good without the stud quarterback. Hopefully it's not snowing next week because that will give them an at least realistic chance of pulling off the upset. Because I think if it's snowing, I just don't believe in their quarterback play. Well, I don't think it's good enough in that environment versus Aaron Rodgers to just keep up. Because Rodgers, even if he struggles versus a good defense, he's still going to put up a certain amount of points. So you need your offense to play well. But the Rams are a tough matchup for the Packers, right? Don't get it twisted. That's going to be a competitive game. I can't wait to preview that one. Cam Akers had a huge performance. He was a big difference maker in the game, I felt. He made some guys miss. I mean, Bobby Wagner looked horrible in that game on Saturday. He clearly, I know I've kind of been like the Bobby Wagner's overrated train, and he's still being ranked as an all-pro and all this, but like, Bobby Wagner had a bad game. I know he was hurt. He missed some tackles. He wasn't great in coverage. Overall, he didn't perform at an elite level. Jamal Adams, how did you guys feel about that hit? I kind of felt it was a little dirty. I don't want to say it was outright. Like I like that they didn't kick him out of the game because I didn't feel that was warranted, but I felt it was a little dirty. You had the Rams with 5 sacks. They forced 2 turnovers defensively. They had a touchdown in the game. They had just a lot of their underrated players show up, like on the defensive line. Fox, Joseph Day, Leonard Floyd. A lot of these underrated Rams. Even their linebackers showed up. Played a good game. So yeah, the number one thing I saw from this game, that I learned from this game, is I knew everything that the Rams were going to do. The Rams played just as I expected, is what I'm trying to say. But what I learned from this game is if the Seahawks want to go anywhere far into the playoffs in the future with Russell Wilson and win another ring, it is time to move on from what they currently have on their coaching staff because it just hasn't gotten it done in these situations. There's no reason that you should lose to a guy with a broken thumb at quarterback or John Wolford, regardless of the defense that you're playing. You should not lose to that guy at home as the favorite with Russell Wilson, a humongous quarterback advantage. I get it, it's a team sport, but you shouldn't be outcoached to that degree that you lose that game. So that's what I learned from that game, most importantly, out of everything else. Next, Brady Balls versus the Washington football team. And yes, guys, I'm spelling Washington football team, not WTF, just so you know. So Brady was phenomenal. Once again, I kind of feel like this went under the radar in comparison to some of the other games because this is the weird part about this game, guys. This is the weird part about this game. This game, to me, whenever Washington was on offense, felt like a preseason game. Especially early in the game. I don't know if it was the commentary team, the broadcast, the intensity of the players. From the first snap to the last snap, it never felt like the Bucs were going to lose, and it never felt like this game was in jeopardy. As much as the score was close at certain points in the game, it felt like this game was a foregone conclusion from the first snap to the final snap. And you kind of felt that from the intensity of the Bucs defense. Like, the Bucs defense just overall just didn't have the intensity you would like to see them have in a playoff game. I don't think it had to do with that I heard Arian say something interesting. So he said two things that were interesting. So Bruce Arians said, one, we were hoping to get Alex Smith in this game, which tells you how much, he thinks of Alex Smith at this point. And I said the same thing. When I was watching Taylor Heinicke, he gave this team a much better chance to win this game than Alex Smith ever would have. And I know that sounds weird on the surface, but it's completely true. Alex Smith not only, at this point in his career, lacks mobility and arm strength and ability to make plays, but he's hurt. So he was going to be playing hurt with all of these things already in the negative column, already below average. So what Heinicke gave the Washington football team was their best chance to win this game. He played nearly a perfect game. This guy deserves the praise. He deserves the praise 100%. He played a really good game. I could probably count on 3 fingers how many bad throws he made. Maybe 2 to 3 bad throws all game. Like, he nearly never made a bad decision despite the Bucs blitzing him constantly. I think Washington did a very good job of picking up the Bucs blitzing schemes and blitz packages. So that was a big part of it. But his ability to extend the play, to scramble, I didn't think he was that athletic. I knew he was athletic, but I didn't think he was that athletic. And his arm was much stronger than I thought. He made throws, like, outside the numbers, down the field, accurately. That one touchdown pass, that was great. The guy played as good as you could have possibly expected him to play. Like, better. He was better than expectation. District 13 says, Tampa at 15-1 for $10. Let's go, Brady. Get your home field advantage. Nice. Good job. Thank you for the donation once again. And thank you for sharing the wealth. But yeah, as soon as I saw the guy on the first drive, I'm like, oh my goodness, the Bucs actually have a game here. Because this guy is better than Alex Smith. Like, when I made this game my best bet, I thought it was going to be Alex Smith playing. So I knew what I was going to get from Alex Smith. A guy that wasn't going to leave the pocket, was going to get blown up by the blitz, and couldn't make the throws. And Heinicke was the exact opposite. He scrambled for a touchdown. He made big throws for big conversions on third down versus the blitz for touchdowns. And I think if Alex Smith plays in this game, Washington lose by like 20 because their defense got shredded. I sent this stat to Ultra. The Tampa Bay offense was the only offense all year to have over 500 yards versus Washington and actually outgained every other team this year by over 70 yards. So Tampa Bay performed better than any other offense versus this Washington defense, which coming into the game was top 3 in the NFL. Brady was phenomenal, threw for the most yards versus this defense that anyone has all year by over 70 yards, throwing for 381 yards and 2 touchdowns, despite having numerous drops, including Chris Godwin dropping 5 passes in this game. Brady could have easily thrown for 450 yards in this game versus the Washington defense, which everyone was talking about, saying they were going to pressure Brady. It was going to be tough. This game was going to be close because it would be low scoring. It was the exact opposite. Brady dominated this game. The offensive line for the Bucs dominated this game. Chase Young didn't even touch Brady once, did not hit him once, did not pressure him once. In fact, Rob Gronkowski one-on-one blocked him on numerous occasions. Brady was just amazing. The thing about Brady that was so spectacular and has been so spectacular lately is not just that he's old and performing at the level that he's performing, it's the way he's performing. So he's throwing the ball down the field while getting rid of the ball quickly. That is something that is very rare. That does not take place very often. That is so difficult to do. There's one play at the end of the game that basically sealed the game. Brady was under pressure within 1.5 seconds. So Daron Payne beat his block I believe it was Payne, maybe it was Allen, was in the face of Brady within 1 second. And Brady had already thrown the ball while getting hit down the left sideline to Mike Evans. And that was a 30-yard gain. So Brady was able to get rid of the ball within 2 seconds, 30 yards down the field on a perfect pass to Mike Evans for a completion. So it's not only everyone's talking about, Brady is playing amazing at 43, which is 100% correct. He's been an elite quarterback this year, especially when he's protected. But now he's starting to play well while he's getting hit. Now we're starting to see Tom Brady revert to 5 years ago Tom Brady, where he's still playing well while under pressure. So that's a game changer because the Bucs have figured out, how to defeat teams that can pressure them, and Brady has gone off. And this is extremely, extremely important when the Bucs will face the Saints, because it will be the difference in the game. If the Bucs are able to play as well as they did offensively versus Washington, and versus the Saints, they will beat the Saints. It's really that simple. So Tampa Bay, if they keep playing offense like this, they can beat anybody in the league. They should have scored 40 points in this game. If you watch this game, the Bucs offense, I'm talking, they made this defense look like the Lions defense. They really, the only time Washington stopped the Bucs was when the Bucs screwed up. They missed a block, they dropped a pass, they just didn't execute in the red zone. If the Bucs would have executed in the red zone better, which I think they need to versus New Orleans, they would have scored 45 points in this game. So it was just extremely impressive from Tampa Bay's perspective, from their offense. Leonard Fournette, who I haven't liked all year, I think the guy sucked all year, played his best game of the season. And that was huge because Rojo got hurt early. Hopefully he's back to help out Leonard. But Leonard showed that he could be the lead back if need be. He had an impressive game. He actually broke tackles. He actually made plays. And he was even good as a receiver in the game. So Washington was a very good litmus test for New Orleans coming up because it's a very similar pressure defense. And they got a very good defensive line. So that's going to be very interesting. So Heineke was awesome. Tampa Bay's defense, I thought, was disappointing. I think that's the concern if you're a Tampa Bay fan, is their secondary wasn't very good. But I actually feel like part of that was the mobility and ability to extend plays by Heineke, who was just playing out of his mind. But part of it was also Tampa Bay's inability to get to the quarterback on those blitzes. I think Devin White coming back will definitely help. Another key thing here is Kappa, their right guard, is going to be out for the season. So they're going to have another guy come in there. He got hurt halfway through the game, maybe a little bit, 60% through the game. So they're going to have to replace him, which is going to be big. Hopefully the guy that comes in can perform well, because that is the key to their success, right? The offensive line and Tom Brady and those receivers just getting open so fast that it really doesn't matter. And we've seen that, everything I said about Brady last year, it's not Brady, it's the receivers, it's the offensive line. It's coming true now that he has chemistry with these players. And I also think, Washington is kind of I thought Washington with Alex Smith would be a worse version of what they would see offensively from New Orleans. McLaurin as Michael Thomas, Cook as Logan Thomas. You have Gibson as Kamara. It's kind of a worse version. But Heineke was a totally different kind of matchup because of his mobility. And that kind of took them by surprise, I think, because they weren't able to prepare for him the same way that they prepared for Alex Smith. But we'll see how I just want to see Tampa. We'll get into it at the preview. But I just want to see Tampa play differently than they did last time versus New Orleans, just defensively, just in general, just the game plan. I want to see that change. Chase Young was invisible in the game. I thought the best rookie on the field was Tristan Wirfs. The explosiveness of Tampa Bay may be the reason why they can get to the Super Bowl out of the NFC, right? Them and Green Bay I think Tampa's more explosive than Green Bay, but Green Bay also has an explosive element. If Tampa Bay is able to beat New Orleans, it's most likely because their offense hits those explosive plays, and New Orleans isn't. New Orleans doesn't. So that would be the difference between the two. If they're able to upset New Orleans, I think that's a big reason why. And that's kind of what I saw. I think the secondary needs to step up for Tampa, but it will be a totally different game. You know, everything's kind of underneath for New Orleans, so that will be interesting to see how they game plan for that. And again, getting Devin White back will be massive. But this game just kind of felt the least like a playoff game to me. It felt like almost, Tom Brady was awesome, the offense was awesome, but it just never really felt like the game was in doubt for Tampa, even though Heineke was playing very well. So hopefully the intensity can rise from Tampa and from the broadcast for NBC with Tony Dungy next week. So that's my thoughts on that game. Then we have the Ravens and the Titans. The Ravens get revenge on Tennessee. This game was, again, a game that went kind of exactly like I thought. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but seriously, these games went very close to how I thought it would go. And that's kind of the advantage of being able to prep for only 6 games in a week instead of 15. But the Ravens, they stuffed Derrick Henry, which if you watch this channel, you understood that I thought that was going to happen. Now, everyone was kind of shocked by that, but I knew it was going to be the key to the game, and it in fact was. Right? Derrick Henry, 1.8 yards per carry versus loaded boxes. He had, 40 yards, 48 yards in this game, something like that? Calais Campbell being back, Brandon Williams being back. Absolutely huge to the Ravens winning this game, and the reason they lost last time they played. Lamar was amazing. I mean, the guy is ridiculous. He is the Ravens offense. He is the Ravens offense. You put any other quarterback in the Ravens offense, they are not nearly this good or explosive. Any other quarterback. Because the way they play, Lamar is so important to what they do as a runner and obviously his passing. But that scramble, man, was one of the best runs I've ever seen. He literally outran the entire Titans secondary. Think about how fast cornerbacks and safeties are in the NFL. He outran all of them to the end zone. All of them. He outran all of the corners, all the safeties. Lamar was sacked 5 times. He still came back. He was able to make enough plays with his arm and his legs. He connected with Marquise Brown a number of times, who I thought had a big game in this one. The showdown between A.J. Brown and Marlon Humphrey, that was really the only way the Titans got any offense, was throwing to A.J. Brown. Everything else sucked. Tennessee's offense was bad. They couldn't run the ball. Corey Davis was just absolutely locked down by Marcus Peters, who got the game-winning interception. Jonnu Smith didn't do a lot. Ferkser made a couple plays. Tannehill didn't play very well in the traditional drop-back game, which we said if they can get him in the traditional drop-back game and not off play action, the Ravens will have a good opportunity because they can get you with their pressure packages. Which, by the way, Wink Martindale, I felt he might have been the MVP of this game outside of Lamar. He had an awesome game plan. He had a few pressure packages that got there. They stuffed the run very well. He prepared his players. They missed no tackles in the game, basically. Every time they had a chance on Derrick Henry, they brought him down. Basically, if it wasn't A.J. Brown beating Marlon Humphrey one-on-one, which was the key to the game for the Titans offense, they didn't do anything. I didn't see them do anything. I think the main thing I took away, by the way, Mike Vrabel also had some bad coaching decisions, like the unprecedented punt at the other team's 38-yard line where he punted it. That was ridiculous. I don't know what he was doing there. The Baltimore Bullies are back. That was the main thing I learned from this game. They ran the ball for over 220 yards or whatever. They established the line of scrimmage. They bullied the Titans up front on both sides of the football, which is not easy to do. They were the tougher team, and they truly kind of got back to their identity and showed us, what they are at their best Now, were there some concerning things for the Ravens? Yes, because I felt like at a certain point in this game, the Titans kind of lost the game a little too, right? They had an opportunity. They were up big in the game. They lost it when they were up big, and they kind of took the foot off the gas. And I thought the Titans defense had a really good game plan. And that's something that I feel the Bills might be able to replicate. I don't think the Bills are quite as good up front they're not as big. So they might get gashed a little bit more up the middle, but they definitely have the speed on the edges to replicate what Tennessee did with their ability to contain Lamar early in the game. Really, it was not the scheme of the Ravens offense that was so good. It was Lamar. It was just Lamar making plays after play after play, just single-handedly, or their running backs, or just strictly getting pushed one-on-one. But the Titans' scheme was excellent. I thought, defensively. I thought Vrabel deserves a lot of credit for that. But the offense just wasn't able to do enough. And they resorted too much to running the ball with Derrick Henry. I think they should have passed the ball more early in the game. And I thought they should have resorted more to play action. But they consistently ran the ball on first down to Derrick Henry for 2 yards a carry. And that just put them in bad third downs, just like Seattle. And that's where the Ravens were able to get them. So overall, the Bullies are back. The Ravens are going to give the Bills a great game because they both have, I think, a lot. I think the key in that game will be the Bills' ability to stop the run of the Ravens and the Bills' ability on offense to contain the Ravens' blitzing packages. Those will be the keys to the game, in my opinion. But that game's going to be good. I think that might be the best matchup of the week. Obviously, I'm most excited for New Orleans and Tampa, but I think from a football perspective, the Ravens and the Bills is probably the best game. So I'm looking forward to that, but the Ravens, they got their revenge. They were the better team. Lamar led the way, got his first playoff victory. Good to see, to shut up those idiots that were talking about him losing 2 playoff games. So the final game I want to discuss, and this game was not the most lopsided. It ended up being, 21-9 or something like that. But it was just the most boring because, you clearly saw that. And this is a credit to New Orleans. Chicago did not deserve to be in the playoffs. Chicago's offense was just an absolute utter disaster. It was embarrassing, to be honest. The Saints, they were 11 for 17 on third down, which is a good thing and a bad thing. You don't ever want to be in third down 17 times in a game, which I think was also key to why Chicago stopped them as many times as they did, because they were able to win on the early downs and actually force New Orleans into a lot of third downs, which that is why I feel Chicago's defense mostly won the day versus New Orleans. New Orleans wasn't converting for first downs on the first 2 downs. Chicago, on the other hand, was 1 for 10 on third down because they could not run the ball. They're one-trick pony offense. They have one play on offense. They run a play-action boot to the right. That's all they got. That's their entire offense. It was just apparent how, limited their offense is. Not just with Trubisky at quarterback, but just the entire offense in general. Just entirely limited from a game plan perspective, from a play calling perspective. And New Orleans was all over it. I mean, they got pressure after Trubisky, as we thought they would. They stopped the run, as we thought they would. They're a good defense. And when you play an offense that limited, Allen Robinson hurt. He's playing through injury. No Darnell Mooney, a bad offensive line, a bad quarterback. Chicago wasn't creative at all. They had one trick play in the game. They didn't run Trubisky. They didn't show us anything new. It was just the same old stuff. Offensively for New Orleans, I didn't think, some people are saying Drew Brees played really well. I'm like, I didn't see that. I thought Drew Brees was average at best. I thought he actually kind of struggled in the game versus Chicago. I thought Chicago's defense did a really awesome job. They had a great job of stunts up front that I thought gave the offensive line of New Orleans rare issues. That doesn't happen very often, but Chicago was getting pressure after Brees. Brees was having to force the ball, just throw it away. Most of the success for Drew came underneath the defense. Deontay Harris had a really good game. caught 7 passes for 83 yards and a touchdown. He is their new number 2 receiver, and maybe a big factor if the Saints are able to beat the Bucs and go further in the playoffs. But the biggest thing I saw was just like the Bears played not to lose. It was extremely frustrating to watch, and they just look like they did not belong. They just look like they did not belong in the playoffs, and the Saints, they did enough on offense while dominating on defense to get past the Bears. So it's hard to really learn from this game. It's just hard to learn from the Saints playing a team that just isn't on their level. It's just not even completely competent or close. The Saints offense, though, I will say this, completely infuriating. Like, infuriating to watch. I hate watching the Saints offense. Even though when it's good, it's good football, but like they're complete, like they just throw the ball for 2, 3, 4 yards every play. Like it's just so annoying as a fan to watch it, but that's what they have to do to succeed. So like, I get it. I thought Michael Thomas looked pretty healthy. So that's good for them. And yeah, it was just kind of boring. It was a boring game, but hopefully we get a better game with the Saints and the Bucs. The Saints, we know what they have to do next week. They have to protect Breeze. They have to win the line of scrimmage. I think if the Saints win the line of scrimmage versus Tampa Bay, they probably win the game. Because I think the key to beating the Bucs for New Orleans has been forcing turnovers on Tampa and making Tampa make the mistakes, and that's why they've won. So I think if they win the line of scrimmage, that will be the biggest ability to be able to do that. And as long as Drew Brees can make a few throws, you guys should be fine, and New Orleans should at least be in the game, if not win the game. So, yeah, kind of just what I expected from the Bears. I mean, it's just annoying. It's just annoying that team got in the playoffs. I don't know how Arizona would have done, but NFC clearly didn't have 7 playoff teams. AFC did. New Orleans did not. Or not New Orleans. NFC did not. So, yeah, that's my lessons from Wild Card Weekend, guys. So let's take a look at the divisional round, and I'll answer your questions now. If you have any comments, any questions for me, let me know right now, and I'll answer them right now. So let's go. Division look ahead. So I'll read off the schedule real quick. I know you guys want to go watch that national championship game. Who do you guys think is going to win the national championship game, by the way? And thank you guys all for being here live. If you've enjoyed, Gronk, spike that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more NFL. So, on Saturday, we have the Rams at the Packers at 4:35 Eastern time. That's the first game on Saturday, and the primetime game. I like how they did this, though. I like the way that the schedule ended up. That the Rams and the Packers are the first game, and the Browns and the Chiefs are the first game on Saturday and Sunday. The Ravens and the Bills are the primetime game at 8:15 Eastern on Saturday, while the Bucs and Saints finish divisional weekend on Sunday night at 6:40 Eastern time. So that's the schedule for you guys. I'm looking forward to it and looking forward to breaking down and diving into these games because they should be pretty fun. So everybody thinks that Bama is probably going to win, which is interesting. District 13 says good playoff so far. Yeah, overall, I had a fun time. It was really cool seeing the triple headers. It was fun. JT says that the Saints aren't winning. Jack says Bama. Samuel says Ohio State. We got some more Bama. Lenny says Ohio State. Will Mike Evans get a catch? Oh, my bold prediction for this week is Mike Evans will have his best game versus Marshawn Lattimore that he's ever had. That's my bold prediction. He will score a touchdown. That's my prediction. Singh says, Mitch, which team did the worst in the playoffs? The Steelers. No question. Great Iron Fist says, close game tonight. Alabama 43, Ohio State 17. Nice joke. Go Buck says, Juju just said he has no regrets for what he said. Can somebody make an account for him on the Discord and then permanently clown him? The Goat House says, hey, Mitch, enjoying your videos lately. Keep on working, and that Steelers rant was hilarious. Thank you. I appreciate that. Steve says, what are your early picks? Early picks as of right now, I don't know if I want to give it away, but where I'm leaning is kind of like probably I'm slightly leaning towards the Packers right now. And then I'm leaning towards the Bills in a very probably field goal game. Then on Sunday, I am leaning towards definitely the Chiefs over the Browns, although I think the Browns are going to be more competitive than people think. And I'm going with Tampa over New Orleans. I think that's the only game. Oh, no, yeah. Packers and Rams and Tampa and New Orleans are the games that I predicted. So I'm sticking to those predictions right now. Hot Take says, are you excited for hockey? I'm ready for hockey, man. I got my fantasy draft tonight at 7:15, so I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be fun. And, yeah, Hot Take Hockey. Go subscribe to Hot Take Hockey. He's got hockey content all year long. The league starts on Wednesday. Looking forward to seeing my Penguins this year and the Canucks as well, so that will be fun. And I'll have to get on the channel for the podcast. Samuel says, is Antonio Brown back to being a top 10 receiver? I would not say top 10, but I would probably say somewhere around the top 20-ish. He's definitely getting better and better every week, it feels like. I didn't watch the game on Nickelodeon. Rob has one upset for the next round. Lenny says, Mitch, why did the Steelers ruin wide receivers? AB was seen as a standout, hardworking guy when he was drafted. Juju was the only good persona. I don't know. Maybe they get away with too much in the building. I don't know. Yeah. Belichick declined the Medal of Freedom from Trump. That's interesting. Isaac says, I don't know crap about hockey, but I just want a Canadian team to win. Yeah, let's go, Isaac. Steve with the thumbs up. Lenny says, Mitch, are you ready for the Falcons vid? Yes. Can't wait. Ultra's going to get exposed. All right, guys. Thank you for joining me tonight. Hope you enjoyed the national championship game between Alabama and Ohio State. And I will see you tomorrow for the weekly picks. Hopefully I have a better idea of who I feel is going to win by tomorrow night. But yeah, looking forward to divisional round. It's usually my favorite weekend of the year for football, and I don't expect it to be any different this year. So thanks, guys, for watching. If you enjoyed, Gronk, spike that like button and subscribe to the channel for more. Peace!